Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. So it isn't often that I do a review here on my couch, but I have to talk about this. So this is me reviewing something, but it's also kind of a rant. So this is my review of the Prince of Egypt musical. So let's talk about it. Let's get into this. So a little bit of background. The Prince of Egypt is an animated movie that came out in DreamWorks. I don't know if you guys have heard of it or seen it, but it and the Joseph movie was my childhood. Like, I loved those movies. I grew up with the Prince of Egypt. I remember I was homeschooled for a long time when I was younger, and at one point in my life, I did try this Christian school, and I remember going there and watching it at one time, and me and some kids were arguing, like, when Ramesses and Moses were racing the horses, I was always rooting for Moses because I knew he was, like, the good guy. But anyways, so when I found out there was a musical to it, I like scoured the internet to find it. So recently this year, I guess it's like a play over in like England somewhere that have put it on, and it's basically put on a play. So I watched half of it last night and I finished the last half, basically Act 1 yesterday, Act 2 tonight. And the first half was amazing. It was so good. The music was really good. They added some scenes, they added some songs. They kind of changed it up, but like added, like made it their own, but like honored what came before. I felt like it was really good. I love the actors, the dancers, the way that they've incorporated, I love Sight and Sound theaters, and they have a lot of like big sets and stuff. But this theater, they used a lot of like the actors like stacking on top of each other, and they had these outfits that like when the lights would change, like I remember the scene where Moses is put in the basket and carried by the river. Like the actors themselves were carrying the basket and dancing and moving it, but the blue lights made it look like water. Later on, when the burning bush scene, like it reflects on them like red, and it looks like they're on fire, and it's really cool. So the way they incorporated that instead of like really super intensive sets and stuff, it was like the actors did a lot of work. So when I start my rant, I want to clarify this that the actors did really good, the singers, the dancers, everybody did a phenomenal job. So here then begins my rant, the second half of this musical. They took God completely out of it. And at first, the first half during the burning bush scene, I was like, okay, I understand incorporating it with the chorus. Maybe they didn't have another actor who could voice like God's voice speaking to Moses, so I didn't really, get bothered by it or have like I didn't put two and two together at that point. But then the latter half, when it starts to getting to where God's having Moses do the plagues and stuff like that, they took God out of it and they made Ramesses the hero. And I have a big problem with the way that they twisted scripture. So basically, Ramesses starts off very weak, very oppressed by his dad, pressuring him to be Pharaoh and not to be the weak link. And that's how it starts off too. Like he's not as weak in the original movie, but he has that pressure. And I thought at the beginning that it was going to be his arc where he becomes Pharaoh, he gets hardened. That's very much what happens in the movie. And real life, but in this one he just gets weak, and it's like the priest is the guy doing all of it and making him break his word. And like they did this thing where him and Moses had a deal, literally the first time Moses ever speaks to him, and he agrees to let the Hebrews go if Moses will stay on at court with him. And so Ramesses ends up breaking that deal because the priest talked him out of it. And so because of that, Moses was like justified in doing all of the plagues, because Ramesses broke his word. And then the last plague happens, which is the firstborn, and Moses has this brand new song that he sings that is basically like questioning God and like, I played a part in all of this, and it honestly painted God as the bad guy. And there was a scene where Ramesses and his wife grieves for their son and painting them as the good guys, kind of like not acknowledging the fact that like the Egyptians murdered all of the firstborn of the Israelites, which they did do. They did acknowledge that in Act 1, but there was no emphasis on the grief of the children in Act 1 compared to the Egyptians in Act 2. And then at the very end of the movie, Ramesses, literally they meet up, like Moses parts the water and the people go across, and Moses decides to go back to talk to Ramesses, and they talk, and Ramesses decides to let them go, and Moses offers to go back to court with him, and Ramesses is like, no, you belong with your people, and I'm going to break the chain. I'm going to end this. I'm going to end the cycle and not be, whatever, like not be the bad guy essentially. And so Ramesses chooses to let them go and not go after them. And then the priest is the one who sends the army across, which gets them killed. Like, Ramesses is the hero? Moses is the bad guy. God is certainly the bad guy. And they don't even mention God like once. Like in the song, Moses was talking about just you, like it was like a you. It was kind of like a vague, like this other power that was like talking to him and pressuring him into doing these things. And and then the fact, like Ramesses' arc in the original movie reflects, it humanizes Ramesses, but we get to see why things turned out the way that they did, because he started off, well, a possibility of why, like, we only have what's in the Bible, obviously, but like he had the pressure of not failing his dad and not failing the Pharaoh lineage and not being the weak link. And in the movie, he gets so hard and he's so full of pride because he does not want to fail that it literally, he makes the wrong choices, and his stubborn pride brings all of this upon him. There's this one conversation in the movie where Moses is trying to convince Ramesses to let the people go, and Ramesses says, no, there will be a cry in all of Egypt that has never been or will be again. And it's like he declares it on himself. He brought it on himself. The movie emphasizes this so much. And so when the firstborn happened, there's a little bit like Moses cries because it obviously is sad, but it's like Ramesses brought it on him and on his people. And they took that completely away. Ramesses was this poor, innocent, the Egyptians were these poor, innocent people, and it was like the Israelites and God were the bad people. And it's just super frustrating because it's not scripture. That's not what happened. That's not who Ramesses was. Ramesses, even at the end, he, in the Bible, in real life, Ramesses took the army and went after them, and guess what? He got his army killed because he was so prideful that he chased after the Israelites and was arrogant and thought that he could cross the Red Sea with them, and that they had more power than God. Like, that was ultimately what some of this was about too, is that they thought they had more power. He thought they had more power than God. The first few plagues, they tried to like one up God, so to speak, and replicate some of them. And then eventually it got to the point where it was like God proving that no, nobody is more powerful than me. And like Ramesses thought that he could kill the Israelites, and just, it was just like a pride thing. And like he led his army in there and led his army to ruin. And it completely took that away because Ramesses was this good, innocent guy who did the right thing and forgave Moses, the poor bad guy who was just obeying this mysterious power. It's just really frustrating. And I don't know if it's like the narrative of today because of like what's going on overseas with Israel versus Palestine. And so, of course, Israel is always the bad guy. Like, obviously, that is not the case, and I stand with Israel. But that's the narrative of today, and I feel like that definitely interfered with this. And then my other small rant was my favorite song in the whole movie, and one of my favorite songs of all time is The Plagues, which is Let My People Go. And Moses and Ramesses have this duet. I've sang that duet with so many people. Like, I know it's a guy part, but I love those parts. It's so powerful, and it's a powerful song. And they changed up the words. And then in the whole song itself, they had little stops where like the music would stop and it would be these little scenes that they would talk. It completely like destroyed the whole song, but that's minor next to the fact that you're twisting scripture and they took God out of it. So, but the first half was so good. It was going on like 5 stars, and I'm like, oh, this is like Sight and Sound Theater. This is going to be great. It's like, no, this is not like Sight and Sound Theater, because you know what? Sight and Sound Theater honors God. It honors the Bible. It tries to get like Bible stories and God out there to people and to families with entertainment and plays and like all this stuff. And like they like worldified it, like they secularized it and made it more fit for the world and secular people, and like blamed everything on like God and Moses being the bad guys, Ramesses and the Egyptians were the good guys, and it just completely flipped the narrative. But the problem is, this is Bible, this is history. You can't just flip the history like that and twist the Bible and scripture to fit the narrative that you want it to fit. So overall, I don't know. I like the production, the dances, the singing. I mean, it's all really good, but the ending just completely ruined it for me. So 3 stars, 2 stars, I don't know. I like 2 to 1 stars because they ruined everything. But the production and the singing and the way that they incorporated the play, like I'm a theater kid, so I love theater and I love musicals and stuff like that. So the music and the songs and the choreography and the acting was so on point. Like the acting was really good and it was really believable. Like Moses felt and looked upset and angry at God for making him do all these evil things. Like that was the whole premise of Moses. And so yeah, but when you twist scripture, it's like that one Noah movie with Russell Crowe. I love Russell Crowe, but that movie was just a terrible movie. The Exodus movie with Christian Bale, that was a horrible thing. Like the Bible is not here for you to just take stories like a fairy tale and retell it however you want. It's real history. You need to honor it. You need to respect it when you're incorporating it into whatever tales you want to tell, because it's real. It happened. You can't just twist it for whatever narrative you want to use it for. But kudos to the actors, like fantastic cast, phenomenal acting, phenomenal production, everything was fantastic. But just flipping the narrative like that, you can't do it. I'm sorry. So I'm going to get off here and go watch the original Prince of Egypt because that is the only version of this that makes sense. And even it had a few details that were incorrect according to the Bible, but at least it honored the Bible itself, and respected it. Same with the Joseph movie. Also, one other thing to add to my Moses, Prince of Egypt rant, is that at the very, very end, when he parts the Red Sea, it was kind of implied that it was through Moses's power, but in the original Prince of Egypt, it was very clear that you shall do my wonders. It was like God, his power doing it through Moses, as opposed to like, I don't know, Moses doing the power, and it took God completely out of it. So I just wanted to add that in there too. So yeah, like 2 stars, I guess. And it would be 1 because of how they completely made God and the Israelites and Moses to be the bad guys. But the production and acting and dancing and choreography and singing was really good. So that's why it's 2 stars. Have you guys seen it? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know what you guys think, both especially Christians who have seen it and people who are fans of the original. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. So if you liked this video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more writing and reading videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. In the meantime, if you liked my review about this movie, then check out my review of The Little Mermaid. It's another remake because live action remakes are like the thing that are in. So check that out. You don't want to miss it. Did I like it or did I not? Is it good or bad? Check it out to find out.